Hello everyone. The novel I'm going to introduce today is full of fantasy and emotional entanglements. In it, Jacob discovers he has the divine power to control lightning, making him the center of attention. But little did he know he was the wolf god 𝐿𝐤, which completely changed his life. Yet, as he struggled to adapt to this new power, his mother Grace found herself in trouble due to her past secrets. What should Jacob do to balance his divine status and family relationships? And can he uncover the secrets his mother has hidden? Come and join me to see this novel. Chapter 49. Vic's smirk sent waves of anger coursing through Hunter's veins, his assertive nature bristling at the challenge. The pack, sensing the tension. The basketball court, once filled with the sounds of friendly competition, now crackled with an electric atmosphere of impending confrontation. As Vic sauntered towards Hunter, his confrontational demeanor on full display, Jacob, still in his pup form, instinctively squeezed between Hunter's legs. The young wolf's inexperience with transformations left him too distracted to focus on changing back. His concerned eyes watched the light reflect off the rim of Vic's trainers with each menacing step. Vic's gaze swept over the puppy, oblivious to Jacob's true identity. His sarcastic grin widened as he taunted, "Why is that with you? Are you babysitting?" The disrespect in his tone was palpable, and Hunter's fists clenched, his protective instincts flaring. "And why does it have freaky marks on its fur?" Behind Hunter, his pack had shifted into their human forms, a united front behind their alpha. The air thickened with tension as Hunter growled, his leadership qualities shining through. "You have no idea who you're insulting." Vic's frown deepened, his confrontational nature pushing him further. "What? Don't tell me this is a relative, and that was an insult." Hunter's blood boiled, his quick temper threatening to overflow. "You come into this building and disrupt our training session. Then you think you have the right to question me like this? Who do you think you are? Come on, Hunter. You're just the big dog's son. You can act like you are royalty." Vic sneered, unaware of the true power dynamics at play. Sniggers rippled through the pack as they realized that Hunter was so much more than just a high-ranked alpha. His confidence radiated as he retorted, "Well, actually, I can." Then, through their mind link, Hunter addressed Jacob. "Can you change back?" The pup between his legs backed up and moved to Hunter's side. Jacob, loyal but uncertain, relaxed and focused on his human form. Hunter watched encouragingly, knowing the young wolf could accomplish the transformation. Jacob closed his eyes, concentrating on his human shape. He had done it once before, and Hunter's unwavering belief in him bolstered his confidence. After a few tense seconds, Jacob felt the change wash over him. He opened his eyes to find himself kneeling on the ground, back in human form. Standing up, he shuffled closer to Hunter, drawing strength from the alpha's presence while Vic watched with wide, disbelieving eyes. How he what? Hunter was being patronizing and his pack loved it. human. Well, you're wrong. He turned to Jacob and took his hand. "Would you like to show him some magic?" Jacob very nearly smiled. He didn't like Vic because he hurt Hunter, and that just wasn't acceptable. Everyone watched him hold out his hand, and just like someone flicked a switch, a familiar yellow glow of electricity shot out of his palm and started to circle his fingers. Vic jumped back with fright. "What the hell? You made the biggest mistake of your life to underestimate me." Hunter crossed his arms and allowed his stance to fill with pride. "My mate is 𝐿𝐤. I know your family believe in the gods, and look who you just talked down to." Vic's eyes examined Jacob with caution. He was bigger and powerful, but the god of lightning. He whispered, "His family prayed to the gods every Sunday after the city meeting." He always pretended like he didn't believe. However, he did. He started taking steps back. "Why has this not been announced? Where do you think you're going?" Hunter walked after him. "You came in here." Why Vic stopped, but his eyes were glued to Jacob. "I came here to apologize." His words were surprising, and Hunter found himself questioning his own hearing. He didn't expect that. Why? Because of Alicia? I had no idea she was manipulating your mate's brother like that. After our pack was split up, I told her to distance herself from Jacob and his family. Obviously, she didn't take orders from me because I was no longer her alpha, but she was too angry and I feared she might do something drastic. Why didn't you warn me? Hunter questioned. Because I was too ashamed to face you. We took it too far, and in all honesty, I was influenced by 𝐿𝐸ia. Her drive and her passion for things were inspiring, but I didn't see how demonic she was becoming. I was thinking about chucking her out of the pack after what happened to Jacob. And also, I got harsh punishment from my family. They are still ashamed of what I've done, and I don't want to keep fighting. Vic had used all of his strength to walk in here today to admit this, but it needed to be done. He was 18 and it was about time he started acting like it. Hunter turned back to his pack. They were watching with caution, yet the atmosphere was not tense. Are you going to forgive him? Jacob asked in his head. No, not until he can prove that he is saying the truth. I don't know if he'll turn on me. Why don't you invite him to train today? He must be feeling lonely with no pack. Hunter stared hard at his mate. I can't just forgive and forget, Jacob. Be the better person. He apologized, and that took a lot of guts. You need to show him that his apology was respected. You don't need to forgive him. Just try to be on better terms because I think that's what he wants. Jacob gave Hunter a tiny smile, who was used to being told what to do. But this was his mate, and he had to listen to him. Are you sure you're not the god of wisdom too? Hunter's eyes expressed a cheeky sparkle before he turned back to Vic. Having another alpha here was altering his ego. However, his mate was right. No more holding grudges. This needed to be sorted out like adults. I don't accept your apology. Yet, Hunter said and crossed his arms. But I don't want to fight either. He sighed and did his best not to cringe. Would you like to train with my pack today? Jacob heard the guys begin to murmur. They didn't know how they felt about that.
Oh, Vic frowned.
Thanks, but I can't. I'm going to 𝐿𝐸ia's court hearing. She may be a deluded freak, but we were friends for a very long time. It's only respectful if I show some support. All right? Hunter shrugged, happy that he declined. But if you're really saying the truth, we should no longer be rival packs. It's up to you to change that status. Vic nodded and started walking back towards the door. I will fix this. When he pulled the door open, he turned like he was remembering something. By the way, you know that pack member of yours that you kicked out? 𝐻GS sitting outside. Hunter watched Vic leave as thoughts of Brad popped into his head. Why was he outside? He turned and Sam understood what needed to be done. Stop slacking, boys. He yelled. Start running again. The pack quickly got up and ran on command. Their minds were on Vic and rather shocked that he stepped up like a decent wolf and said he was sorry. Sam then turned to Jacob and started talking as Hunter left the court. He walked down the dark corridor that smelt like bleach, indicating that the floors were mopped this morning. It was still early and the day was yet to start for some people. He looked through the window and spotted Brad sitting on the ground. Hunter pushed the door open and watched how he turned. What are you doing here? Brad quickly scrambled to his feet. Well, I've been meaning to tell you something for a few days. I just didn't know when the right time was to say it. Hunter looked him up and down. Go on. I found a new pack. The bird's squawk became noticeable in the cool morning air as Hunter stepped away from the door and allowed it to shut behind him. You have? Yes, he nodded with proud eyes. They offered me a beta position and I took it. Obviously. It was a hard choice because I was hoping to talk you into letting me back into this pack. You're the highest ranked pack in the North and I was proud but not happy, I guess. Even though I was the Delta, I started feeling less involved and you started relying on Sam more than both of us. When you got a mate, I was jealous. You didn't pay me attention and clearly. It made to be in a beta position, but in your pack. I didn't deserve it. Hunter nodded. What was up with people telling him the truth today? Now that you're in a new pack, do you feel happier with that role? I do. I deserve it in a pack without the big status and my family are happy too. Good. Hunter smiled. It was sad to make you leave on bad terms, but clearly the connection lost there. It's worked out better for all of us. Brad nodded and bit his lower lip. I think I need to apologize to Jacob. I think you do. Hunter then tilted his head. Why haven't your family been visiting the city meetings? Oh, Brad sighed. They're embarrassed that I was kicked out of your pack, so they're nervous to bump into your dad in case he makes a scene. You know my dad won't do that. Hunter chuckled. Tell them it's fine. Everything between us is sorted. Brad nodded, looking noticeably at ease. Also, I wanted to say thanks for everything. I was a pain most of the time and you put up with me for far too long. You're an amazing alpha and I've learned so much. Hunter's ego was building back up again. Don't thank me. You were a good Delta Wolf when you listened to me. They both chuckled as the sun rays shined down on them. Right? Now go away. My training session has been interrupted too many times this morning. All right? You'll come by sometime this week to apologize to Jacob. You better. Brad gave him one last smile before turning and walking away. Hunter allowed a big sigh to escape his lungs. He was feeling less heavy and didn't realize how good it felt to hear people's honesty. Loud thuds of paws hit the cold woodland floor as they pounded over branches and crushed leaves with their weight. The heavy breathing of a wolf echoed and bounced off the bark of the trees. Hunter and Jacob ran through the woods in their wolf forms. It was 3:30 in the afternoon and Jacob was very used to being a pup. He loved being able to run fast. Even though he was much slower than Hunter and couldn't leap over fallen tree trunks and got caught within branches often, he still felt the wind flow through his fur. If anyone of the wolf community spotted them, they'd be utterly shocked to see two wolves with identical markings on their fur. They would most likely run to Anthony to say what they had seen. Gray was a more natural color, but purple stood out for all to see. How are your little legs doing? Hunter questioned and slowed down his jog when Jacob scrambled over a big branch. They're okay. He was out of breath in his head. I feel a bit tired though. We can walk for a bit. The house is not too far. Hunter watched Jacob walk next to him. He leaned down to lick his head before stepping over another tree trunk. Jacob jogged around it, noticing that a lot had fallen. It might have been due to the thunderstorm yesterday. Just then, they both heard voices and froze. Hunter looked through the trees to see a woman in the distance. She looked rather familiar, Mom. Jacob thought with surprise. She was sitting on a tree trunk. What is she doing in the woods? Hunter questioned. They both watched to see her talking with someone else, but that person was out of view. I just couldn't tell him. A deep voice said, which also sounded familiar. Can you see? Hunter asked. Jacob moved his head and his chin almost touched the ground, but he saw how the light reflected off the rim of the shoes he spotted, which reminded him of someone. Well, you need to tell him soon, Gray said and crossed her arms. The wolves looked at one another, both sharing the same confused expression. I don't word it. You're thinking too much about it. You just need to say it. How can I? The deep voice sighed. I can't just walk up to Jacob and tell him we're related. Chapter 50. Who is she talking to? Hunter thought. I don't know. But did they say they were related to me? Jacob questioned. Yeah, that's what I heard. Grace was watching the man, unaware that her son and Hunter were listening to this conversation. Well, I'm not telling him. I can't. He'll hate me for keeping this a secret. No, he won't. Just look at what's kept from him and he accepted it. The deep voice sighed. I just can't believe you waited so long to tell me all of this. I'm sorry, she mumbled. I wanted to stay out of your life just as much as you wanted to stay out of mine. But that's not doable right now, is it? Hey, that's not fair. I wanted you in my life. It's you who decided to get all weird about the wolves. It is weird, she snapped. My brother is married to a werewolf and now has a werewolf son. She doesn't have a brother. Jacob was so confused. Are you forgetting that you're in the exact same position as me? Only your son is a god. When were you going to tell me this? I only found out an hour ago from Vic. I didn't want to believe it, she said glumly. I wanted him to be a normal child with a normal life. It was only after I gave birth to him that Stott's crazy father told me about the prophecy, and after you showed me that werewolves are real by bonding with one. I knew it couldn't be a total lie. Hunter and Jacob heard a sigh from the man. This is huge. 𝐊𝐲, a god of the wolves. Do you know how important your son is? 𝐊𝐲's royalty to us. I don't want him to be. Grace dabbed at her eyes like she was getting rid of tears. 𝐊𝐲's too fragile. Oh, come on. The stranger stood up, giving Hunter and Jacob a perfect view of his face. That's Vic's dad, Hunter thought. Jacob's head was ringing. His mom had lied about everything, just like his dad. How many secrets can his family hold? 𝐊𝐲's not fragile. You've always had a veil over your eyes, for goodness sake. Why haven't you given yourself time to understand him? Clearly, 𝐊𝐲's a very strong-willed person, otherwise he would not be our god. 𝐊𝐲's my son. I know him like the back of my own hand. What a lie, Jacob muttered. Hunter stood above him so his paws were on either side of his little legs. He was trying to give him comfort as they continued to listen. The man crossed his arms. My son hates himself for what he has done to Jacob. Being rival packs with Hunter was never my goal for him. I've been so angry at how he has behaved, but didn't know that Jacob was his cousin. That doesn't excuse his behavior. I know it doesn't, and he has a lot of making up to do, but he feels terrible. Grace stood up and put her handbag over her shoulder. I need to go home. I need to go home. She sighed. Tell me when you told my son that you're his uncle. You're a coward, you know. The man frowned. You can't even tell your own husband about me, and now your son is mates with a wolf and is a god of us all. Your ignorance came back to haunt you, didn't it? Grace looked angry. Clearly, she wanted nothing to do with the werewolf world. 𝐊𝐲's my son, I love him. But you have no idea how much I hate who 𝐊𝐲's becoming. And what's worse is that he can't help any of it. My poor boy didn't have a say in his fate, and that hurts more than anything. Well, you need to suck it up and be there for him. At least he is a dad who cares. He would have had an uncle to, but you threatened to out the wolf's secret if I went near him. After all these years, I still can't believe you would not let your own brother see your boys. I sat outside college sometimes just so I could see how he and William were growing up. You stay away from William. He doesn't need to know any of this. The man laughed. William deserves to know just as much as Jacob. It's not my fault if he accidentally finds out about me now, is it? Neither of them was aware that William had been introduced to werewolves by the poisonous 𝐿𝐲. But Grace didn't know she was a wolf, and her brother didn't know she was after William. He was very glad when Anthony split up the pack. He hated 𝐿𝐲. Is that a threat? Of course not. He beamed and started walking backwards. It's just some brotherly love. Nathan, you better not mention any of this to William. It was nice talking to you, he said and turned. Hunter and Jacob heard his footsteps crunching the leaves. Let's do it again sometime. Grace watched him leave. Her face was holding so much emotion. She looked worried, guilty, scared and angry. She didn't want the secret to be exploding out and into the open. Not now. Jacob's chocolate brown eyes watched her make her way through the woods. He was still and didn't want to make a sound. His mind was incredibly full of so many thoughts and feelings. This was the last thing he expected to hear. The wolves sat there in silence until they were sure that Vic's dad and Jacob's mom were a good distance away. Are you okay, Jacob? Hunter thought. Yes, well, I just need to get to the field. The trees felt like they were closing in on him, and he just needed a big open space. Okay, change back. I'll give you a lift. Jacob walked forward so he was no longer standing underneath him and changed into his human form. Before he managed to stand up, Hunter licked his cheek. This is not a bad thing, he thought. Yes, it's a shock, but I'm happy we were at the right place at the right time. Your mom doesn't know that we know it. We have the advantage now. Jacob rubbed his cheek and nodded his head. I guess you're right. He stood up and climbed on Hunter's back. He wrapped his arms around his neck and closed his eyes. He needed to be out of the woods. After sitting in the field for almost an hour, Jacob still wasn't sure what to make of this situation. Both of his parents had lied to him about different things, but for the same reason. Hunter had told him that he didn't have to worry about any of this. It was up to his mother to grow a backbone and come clean. Coming to terms with the fact that his mate was related to Vic wasn't sitting well, but in time, he would have to accept it. He just couldn't believe it. "Nothing has happened to me today," Jacob mumbled and pulled out a chunk of grass. "With the lunar cycle. I mean." His head was resting against Hunter's leg as he laid on the floor. "I don't know what else to expect. You have healing powers. You grew to look like a god. You can control lightning, and now we share the same mark. I can't think of anything else that would happen." Jacob closed his eyes and let a big breath of air escape his lungs. Hunter was right. He didn't have to do anything. He just felt annoyed that his parents lied like this to both him and William. Hunter picked a daisy flower out of the ground and tickled Jacob's nose with it. His hand was quickly pushed away, but Jacob almost released a smile. "I like Vic's dad," Hunter said and rested his hand against Jacob's chest. He didn't mind his physical touch anymore. He often craved it, and it didn't make him nervous. He's pretty down to earth and easy to get on with. He has good morals and doesn't make life difficult for himself or anyone else. It's a shame I can't say that about Vic. Can we talk about something else for a bit?" Jacob asked quietly. "Yes, sorry." Hunter smiled. "What would you like to talk about?" Jacob stared at the moving clouds, and they didn't look far away anymore. He felt a connection with the sky, and it was hard for him to explain why. "There's a storm coming. Can you feel it?" Jacob nodded his head as Hunter laid on the grass and shuffled down so his mate's head was resting on his chest instead of his lap. "What does it feel like?" "There's a weird buzzing in my chest, and I just know one's coming." Hunter hummed a gentle response. "You're incredible. You might get tired of hearing that, but seriously, I'm so lucky to be paired with you." It's funny for Jacob to hear that. He always thought the same thing about Hunter. In his eyes, he is the definition of perfect and thought of himself as the definition of what's wrong in this world. Yet here they are, feeling like they're not good enough for each other. "I think we should make a pact," Jacob said and watched his grumpy-looking storm clouds approach the horizon. "No matter how deep our self-esteem goes, we will always know that we deserve each other." Hunter smiled and slowly wrapped his little finger around Jacob's. His eyes continued to watch the sky, but his heart was concentrating on his mate. "Okay." Jacob squeezed his little finger back. He felt comfortable in himself. He knew Hunter was 100% himself too, and it was such a luxury to share this with someone. Margot and Anthony were out at the court hearing, which officially started an hour ago. Flora was sitting on the rocking chair and watching the boys. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but she could sense their chorus. As the storm approached, Jacob could just feel that something else was coming with it. Maybe it was a new power for him or a stronger case of electricity. Whatever it was, it filled him with excitement. Hunter was surprised that he was taking his mother's secret so well. He was learning to deal with things in other ways than just freaking out, and he was proud of him. Suddenly, a crackle of thunder broke their silence and filled the air. Hunter raised his eyebrows and watched with interest. He knew there was lightning on the way, and it was coming for Jacob. They watched with anticipation until the familiar warm glow of lightning emerged from the dark clouds. Jacob quickly sat up and reached out his hand. The electricity shot down at phenomenal speed, and the moment it touched his skin, his next power was revealed. Chapter 51, 1 second. Jacob was sitting on the grass and connecting with the storm. The next second, he was at the house and falling hard against the wooden steps. The force broke them and scratched his ribs. Flora, who was sitting on a chair on the porch, received the fright of her life. Hunter barely had time to breathe before he could register that his mate was not sitting next to him anymore and was almost 200 meters away within a blink of an eye. What the? He wasted no time and ran over to him. Jacob had hurt himself, and he was incredibly confused. The storm hovered over the field like it was waiting for its master. Flora slowly climbed out of her chair and hurried over to Jacob, who had fallen through the steps and was lying on the ground, trying to understand how he did that. When Hunter reached the house, he immediately reached for his mate and they both pulled him out. "Are you all right, my dear?" Flora questioned and brushed down his shirt. Jacob shuffled away. He didn't know Flora that well and he was still working on being able to cope with unfamiliar people. Yes, he whispered. The broken wit had ripped his shirt and he was cut badly. Hunter gently rubbed his back with concerned eyes. Are you able to heal that like you healed your head? I'm not sure. Jacob mumbled and looked back up to the sky when it rumbled deeply. But I don't think it's finished yet. He stepped away from him and his grandmother so he could walk back into the eye of the storm. They watched, feeling intrigued but nervous. According to myths, the gods had teleportation gifts. I'm pretty certain Jacob has just received his. Flora said quietly. Teleportation. Hunter watched on like he was stuck in a movie. Jacob didn't know why or how he had felt that it washed over as he reached his hand back up to the sky. Almost instantly, the electricity shot down and connected with him. Jacob closed his eyes and took a big breath. It was like the sky was giving him guidance and calming him down. It took a minute or two of the electricity pumping through his veins for him to realize that now it had finished its job and the next power within him was fully set. The bolt of lightning disappeared and the clouds moved on. Jacob brought his hand back to his side and looked down to his ribs. There was not a scratch in sight. He then smiled, which surprised Hunter. He couldn't tell if he was going to freak out or break down. He was coping better with this godly stuff than his lack of social abilities. Jacob, he questioned. Nana said gods had a gift of teleportation. Is that what just happened to you? I think so. Jacob walked back over. I guess. What else could it be? He was a little startled by it all, however. He was learning that the power was not a threat but something spectacular, and it's completing its journey and finding all the missing pieces of puzzle that he has lived without for all these years. Hunter ran a hand through his hair with a growing smile. That is so cool. He was in awe of him. Just a little bit. Can you do it again? Jacob quickly shook his head. I don't want to right now. Okay. Hunter reached out and took his hand. His skin was so warm and soft. Give yourself time to get used to it. Just then, there was a noise of a vehicle and everyone turned to see Hunter's family truck pulling up to the side of the house. Anthony and Margot climbed out with satisfied expressions, leaving everyone wondering if the court hearing went well. Anthony's eyes examined Hunter, holding hands with his mate. It had fully sunk in that his mate was male and his son is gay. In fact, he was rather proud and couldn't wait to announce it to everyone at the city meeting tomorrow. His son was a perfect example of how to be confident and not care what anyone thinks. Yes, people will talk, judge and feel the need to drill their opinions into anybody's head, but Hunter will not change. Not for anyone. So about the court here, what the hell happened to the steps? He frowned. Oh, young Jacob can teleport now. Flora beamed while her daughter rose her eyebrows. Really? Yeah. Hunter chuckled. Did you not hear the storm? No, Margot was staring at Jacob, feeling quite excited that what she has heard about the gods are not myths. They're true. But teleportation. That's incredible. How did it feel? Jacob started to fidget but subconsciously fiddled with Hunter's fingers instead of his own. Hunter looked down and tried so hard to suppress a smile. Jacob has never done that, but found it immensely adorable. It felt weird. He whispered. I bet it did. Anthony shook his head. Hunter, fix these steps. I need a drink. He began to climb up the side of the broken ones with a heavy sigh. Today was stressful for him. Dad, wait. What happened at the court? Alicia was sentenced to life in prison, which is 15 years. The added fact that she manipulated a human to kill a wolf was almost a bigger offense than actually killing a wolf. You have no idea how smug I looked. I hate that woman. Hunter and Jacob smiled at each other. That was a huge weight off everyone's mind. Sam and his family had gone to the hearing because he was the victim in all of this. He asked if William wanted to come, but he declined. He was still trying to get used to the werewolf world. Oh wait. I have something to show you, Hunter said as his dad turned around again with a sigh. Hunter. His son changed into his wolf and that quickly shut him up. Everyone gasped while Hunter showed off his new and beautiful markings. What is that? Oh my, oh my. Flora's eyes lit up. You boys share the same marks. Margot walked up to him and ran a gentle hand over the mesmerizing purple. Her eyes loved how it shimmered in the sunlight. They're beautiful, Hunter. Why do you have them? Anthony questioned. We think, it's because we are mates. Jacob spoke for him because he was in his wolf form. That would make sense. Flora then tapped her chin with thought. Didn't your father say something about having a letter from his father that had been passed on down generations? He said it had information about what was going to happen during this lunar cycle. Didn't he? Jacob completely forgot about that. Yes, I remember him telling me. Hunter quickly turned. I think we need to read that letter. Scott was sitting on the couch, staring into space. His wife came home half an hour ago and she completely blanked him. Her parents had gone home. Finally. However, her grudge was strong and she'd snap at him whenever he tried to apologize. William was upstairs. He couldn't deal with the tension and buried himself into his college work so he didn't have to deal with their arguing. He isn't used to this thick atmosphere and nobody really liked it. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Scott was very fatigued and fed up of the silence while he slowly headed towards the door. He unlocked it and was very surprised to see Margot, Anthony, Jacob, Hunter, and Flora all standing outside his house. But the company was something he didn't want to refuse. He smiled for the first time since he had been home and stood aside to let everyone in. Hello. His voice was cheery once again. What brings you all here? He hugged his son on the way past before shutting the door. Jacob felt a little nervous. He didn't know how he would react when seeing his mother. She has lied about so much and he was aware that his dad was in the dark about her secret. He wanted to see how long she would keep it hidden, but why would she ask her brother to introduce himself after all these years? Is it because she wanted someone who she could trust in the wolf world to keep an eye on him? We came to see the letter that Granddad gave you. He spoke quietly. Oh yes, give me a minute and I'll get it. But you need to read it somewhere your mother can't see it. She's angry enough at me already. It was irritating Hunter about what Grace was doing. Yes, Scott had kept a big secret from her, but Grace was doing this because she didn't like werewolves. When he wandered off, Flora took the opportunity to look around. What a cute home you have. She glanced into the kitchen and her lips curled into a humorous smile. Humans always stored unnecessary belongings. Would anyone like a drink? Scott questioned as he came back with an envelope in his hand. He gave it to his son with eyes that were pleading with him to look after it. Let's go up to your room. Hunter led him to the stairs. They were both very eager to look inside. When they reached the bedroom, they made it in just as Grace came out of her bedroom and headed downstairs to see who was in their home. William looked up and a smile grew on his face. Hey, I didn't think you'd be back yet. It was still incredibly strange for him to look at Hunter and view him as a werewolf. Not to mention his own brother as something as huge as a god. The boys sat down on Jacob's bed after greeting William. Jacob pulled the letter out to realize that it was around 10 pages long. I hate reading. Hunter sighed and lay back against the duvet. Jacob resisted the urge to roll his eyes when William sat next to him with a frown. What's this? It's a letter about God stuff. Hunter shrugged. William's eyes scanned his brother, who was reading intensely. Is it important? Hunter, it says here about a god's mate. Jacob interrupted and turned to show him. William watched them read it together. He felt a little left out, but it's only because he doesn't know a lot. He was thinking about getting in touch with Sam so he could tell him anything he needed to know. Jacob and Hunter seemed a little too busy for him to ask questions. For a wolf to be paired with a god, they must have high levels of leadership, dominance, importance, and a developed soul. The wolf's bloodline requires chosen qualities such as a greater sense of knowledge and understanding. Hunter read the letter out loud. The family of the wolf will be gifted with great traits to live among a god. He stopped and stared for a moment. Do you think that's why Mom and Nana have that gift? Jacob nodded with interest. William had no idea what was going on, but it was exciting to listen to. During the lunar cycle, the wolf's skin will copy the god's markings, showing their true worth as a guardian. Hunter's smile grew big. He was finding his purpose. Each god has silver markings and each guardian made his purple markings to indicate their importance. You're my guardian. Jacob thought that sounded odd. I am your protector. Hunter grinned. I want a sword. Jacob chuckled, sending waves of pleasure through Hunter. He loved to hear that more than anything in the world. Do you get any powers or anything? Hunter read on for a moment before shaking his head. It just says that it's the guardian's job to assist the god with their missions and help them keep their mental and physical states up to scratch. Basically, you're the keeper of lightning and the keeper of you. Chapter 52. Mom, Dad, Hunter said and walked into the kitchen. They were still at Jacob's house, but the boys had been hibernating in the bedroom, not wanting to see Grace. Margot and Anthony turned to see what their son wanted. Can I talk to you both for a minute? Sure. Margot stood up. She could feel his great thirst to say something very important, and she couldn't quite tell what it was. She and Anthony headed out of the kitchen, leaving Scott and Grace to be awkward with each other while Flora did her own thing. Hunter and Jacob had been discussing in their heads if it was right to tell Hunter's parents about Grace's big secret. They decided that it would be easier to manage if there were other people to help Jacob get through it. Also, Anthony and Margot knew Nathan. Vic's father, so maybe they could talk to him about who he is related to. When they were in the garden, Hunter shut the door and took a breath. Margot squeezed his arm with a concerned frown. What is it? Her angelic voice calmed him. Well, when Jacob and I were in the woods earlier, we saw Grace talking to someone, so we stopped and listened to her conversation. Hunter's voice was very hushed and his parents listened with a lot of care. She was talking to Nathan, Vic's dad, and it turns out that 𝐊𝐲 Grace's brother. Anthony blinked a few times, letting the word brother sink in. That's definitely what you heard. Hunter nodded. She knew about the werewolves before Jacob was born. Nathan was bonded with a werewolf when he was 18 because of his wife, 𝐊𝐲 being an alpha wolf, and I think he told Grace about it. But she basically rejected him because she didn't want to be part of the wolf world. Scott doesn't know about her brother, and she knows that Jacob is a god because Scott's dad told her when Jacob was little. Margot's mouth was hung open. She could barely believe it. And how is Jacob taking this? He was a bit overwhelmed at first, but 𝐊𝐲's taking it quite well. I don't know if I can say that after it all comes out in the open. We should keep an eye on him. He has a lot on his plate at the minute. Anthony ran a hand through his hair. So right now, Grace is furious with Scott for lying about Jacob's birth certificate, and she is pretending like she thinks 𝐊𝐲's crazy. Yet she's keeping this from him. Hunter nodded again. 𝐊𝐲 tried so hard to like her, but after this, I really don't. After not liking your relationship and treating Jacob like a baby when we first met her, 𝐊𝐲 felt funny about her. Something never really sat well with me. Margot gently rubbed her son's arm. She and Anthony loved how there was never any secrets in their family, apart from Hunter finding his mate, but he was scared and didn't want to tell them out of rejection. What do we do about his? Anthony asked, but quickly shook his head. Actually, what does Jacob want to do about this? Well, we talked about it, and I think he wants to be introduced to Nathan and his family to get his side of the story. Then he wants to see if his mom comes clean. That's a good idea. Margot nodded. We better get back or they'll be worrying. Would you like Nana to know? Hunter nodded with a low chuckle. It's best to tell her. She'll stick her nose in until we do. That's very true. Margot grinned and wrapped her arms around his waist. She rested her head against his chest and hugged him tightly. Oh, guess what? Hunter smiled as Anthony wrapped arm around his shoulders and joined the family hug. I found out why Jacob and I share the same mark. Why? Anthony asked and playfully ruffled his hair. Because I'm his guardian. Apparently, it's my job to help him with missions and make sure 𝐊𝐲 is coping well and doing his role to the best of his ability. Margot squeezed him tighter. Your father and I are so proud of you. It is amazing that you get such an opportunity. You really deserve this. Thanks. Hunter smiled. I mean, it's a big opportunity, and you know, a lot is expected of me, but I'm glad I'm not in Jacob's position. I'm happy with just helping him. Margot then pulled back and reached up to gently cup his chin. Honestly, you deserve this. He watched her and they shared the same emotion. He has had a sketchy childhood. Something happened which involved the death of Anthony's parents, and it left Hunter with a crippling fear of water. He also blamed himself for a very long time. It's nice to see you with that twinkle back in your eye. Anthony chuckled and pulled away. Right. Come on then, Ray sons. Let's put on our best. I know that your 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐷𝐞𝐝 face and glare at Grace. Show me again. That was amazing. William was in awe of his little brother's electricity powers. Jacob smiled and allowed the electric bolts to form on his palm once more. William's eyes lit up with the warm yellow glow. Can I touch it? No, Jacob said quickly. Only Hunter can touch it without getting hurt. Oh, William hovered his hand over the top of them. He could feel the heat. So how are you coping with this? It doesn't feel like too much, does it? Jacob shook his head to say no. He really wanted to tell William about their mom's secret, but he couldn't. I didn't like it at first because it felt too weird. But now, I think I like it. Jacob's voice was quiet. As always, you should love it. William grinned and nudged his shoulder. It's incredible in all honesty. I'm human and you're a god. How is that fair? Jacob allowed a little smile to appear. Just as the bedroom door opened and Hunter Ray entered. What are you smiling at? He chuckled and sat next to him on the bed. Nothing. Jacob shrugged, but the smile hovered on his lips. Hunter's grin grew and he didn't even think about it before leaning forwards and kissing his cheek. William sat back and crossed his arms. So, to achieve a relationship that'll last forever, like yours, I need to find a werewolf. Not necessarily. Hunter watched the blush rise on Jacob's face. Some human relationships can lifetime. Yeah, but it's not guaranteed. Well, why don't you go and chat up some female alphas then? Fine. I will. William grinned. Just then, Sam's voice filled Hunter's head. Are you up to anything? Yes, I'm at Jacob's house. Oh, can I come over later? I feel the need to celebrate now that Alicia is locked away, but the 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐧 are boring. Ricky, Harrison, 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐧 and Jonah are all boring, are they? Hunter knew he just wanted to hang out with the alpha. Wait, go to mine in a bit and they'll bring everyone over. We can celebrate properly there. I have an idea. Hunter said out loud and switched Sam's mind link off. Well, it was Sam's idea. But do you want to come back to mine and have like a little celebration for your psycho ex-girlfriend getting life in prison? She got life. William's face went serious. How long is that? 15 years. He didn't know her for very long, and that version of her that he did know was fake. She was a disgusting mutt who had no right to live anywhere but prison. Although, he liked the fake version of her and wished it was who she truly was. Well, he sighed. She got what she deserved. He then curled his eyebrows into a frown which showed Hunter his similarities with Jacob's features. I still need to properly apologize to Sam. You don't need to do that. He knows how sorry you are. I know. It's just that I did a terrible thing. Even if I was forced into it. Don't blame yourself, Jacob said quietly. But in the middle of speaking. He vanished. Hunter blinked, and it took him almost 5 seconds to register that he was no longer sitting next to him. William very slowly sat with wide eyes. I don't understand. Jacob. Hunter quickly questioned in his head. Where are you? He then turned to a very shocked William. Don't worry. He can teleport now. It's a god thing, but he doesn't know how to control it yet. William's face went a tiny bit pale. Jacob was hurtled faster than light without a single warning. The next thing he felt was a very hard blow to his head when he smacked it off the rough bark of a tree, and then a sharp pain in his back when he hit the ground with a lot of force. He groaned and slowly opened his eyes. He found himself staring at the canopy of tall trees. He heard the chirping of birds and buzzing of crickets in the evening light. It took him a long moment to understand that he was in the woods and he must have teleported. Jacob. Hunter's voice filled his throbbing head. Where are you? Slowly, he pulled himself up and glanced around. He breathed. In the woods. Are you okay? You've hurt yourself. I'm fine. A rush of traveling somewhere that fast was incredibly disoriented. Can you get back? Hold on. I'll read the letter and see if it says anything. Hunter quickly reached for the letter and asked William to help him find anything about teleportation. Jacob wasn't sure why he came to the woods. Maybe it was because he was thinking about what happened to Sam and where he was. Suddenly, Jacob traveled again. It took only a handful of seconds before he found himself crashing into someone's friggin' kitchen, falling hard against kitchen tiles. He heard sharp gasps as he groaned again and coughed from winding himself. He heard a sudden screech of a chair and then a hand on his shoulder. Jacob. A familiar voice filled his ears as he squinted his eyes. He was faced with a very worried-looking Sam. How the hell did you do that? He pulled Jacob to his feet, whose cheeks red, when he realized he had disturbed their dinner. Sam's family watched him with mouth hanging open. I got another power today, he whispered. Sam nodded, understanding exactly what it was. Now he had to explain to his family about who Jacob is. How did you get here? You've never been to my house before. William was talking about what happened in the woods. I teleported there, and I was thinking about why I teleported there, and now I'm here because I thought of you. Oh, Sam patted his shoulder. Are you all right? Jacob nodded and avoided Sam's dad's gaze as he slowly stood up. What is going on here? His voice was a little shaky after witnessing something that is not possible. Jacob, close your eyes and think about your bedroom. You have to be calm for it to work. Jacob wanted to get out of this situation, so he closed his eyes and really thought about Hunter. He thought about his beautiful eyes and his smile with a hint of his cheeky personality shining through. He liked it when he looked like that. All of a sudden, a rush exploded through his body and his forehead found itself hitting something hard for the third time. Hunter and William jumped when Jacob crashed into the chest of drawers and fell against the floor and the door. The chest of drawers toppled onto him as he held his head in pain. Hunter jumped over the bed to lift it, while William knelt next to him. Jacob. His voice was also a bit shaky. Are you okay? Yes, Jacob breathed and opened his eyes when Hunter pulled him up into the sitting position. Breath slow. You've winded yourself. He spoke softly and gently rubbed his chest. Jacob looked up and Hunter saw the little twitch of too much emotion. Don't worry about what just happened. Don't worry about Sam and his family. H.S. explaining everything to them and they'll understand. I can't control it. Jacob's breathing was a little wheezy. What if? It's all right. It's all right? Hunter sat in front of him and took his face in his hands. We can spend the whole day tomorrow figuring it out. Jacob nodded and took a big breath when his chest hurt a little less. He couldn't believe it happened so suddenly. He can teleport, William whispered to himself. Hunter watched the stress wash over his eyes. He leaned forwards and cupped his face hard. Don't freak out on me. This is totally normal, okay? His voice was stern and he stared at him with intense eyes. William's mind was pulled back into reality and he nodded. Hunter let go of him and returned to Jacob, who rubbed his head. We really have to learn on your landing. He chuckled and resisted the urge to kiss his head when pulling him to his feet. Yeah, Jacob whispered and cleared his throat. It hurts crashing into people's fridges. Hunter laughed. I would have loved to see Sam's face. Me too. William half chuckled and shook his head to make himself focus. I can't wait until I can control it. Jacob could feel his head healing fast. Me too. And I'll try not to take advantage when I'm craving pizza or something. William scoffed and crossed his arms. If you're craving junk food, chances are Jacob is craving it 10 times worse. True. Hunter grinned. You're like a bottomless pit. Jacob rolled his eyes, but he was smiling. William could always cheer him up, and so could Hunter. The two of them together was guaranteed to burn away his bad emotions. Oh, Hunter turned and picked up the letter. It says what your last power will be, which I'm guessing you'll get tomorrow. What is it? Jacob wasn't sure what else he could possibly receive. The events of suddenly transporting were now being pushed to the back of his mind. Hunter turned to the last page and frantically searched through the paragraphs until he found the word he was looking for. He glanced at his mate, knowing he was going to like this one and would be very, very interesting to get used to seeing it in real life. Tomorrow, according to the letter. Hunter purposely stalled to build this suspense. The grin was very wide on his face. You'll develop telekinesis. Chapter 53 seriously. William got. He'll be able to move things with his mind. Hunter nodded. No way. Everything else that it says in the letter has come true so far. Jacob's eyes were quickly filling with opportunities and amazing things that he could do. But it was also very strange for him to be able to do these things. It was still like he was living in a dream. So as I was saying before Jacob's disappearing act, Hunter took a celebration at my house. We could maybe light a bonfire and chill out. Sounds good. William shrugged. Tomorrow was Sunday, so it didn't matter if he stayed up late. All right. Hunter turned to Jacob with an interested twinkle in his eye. Why don't we invite your parents and invite Nathan too? He suggested in his head. Jacob paused, remembering his mother's secret. That would be interesting. You don't have to in case you wanted to meet him properly first. No, it's a good idea. I'm angry at her for keeping this a secret. I want to see her face when he turns up. Hunter lifted a hand and squeezed his shoulder. If at any point this doesn't feel right and you want to confront Grace, you have every right to do that. Jacob had the power to embarrass his mother, hurt her relationship with his dad and cause chaos in her life. But of course, he was the type of person to want to do that to her, and at the end of the day, she is still his mom. But that didn't mean he couldn't manipulate her plans. Just a tiny bit. Don't summon any storms. The weather needs to stay nice. Hunter chuckled as he tried to get the fire started. Anthony had placed blankets and chairs around the fire pit so people had places to relax and talk. He and Margot thought it was a brilliant idea to invite Nathan and could not wait to see Grace's reaction. Do you want some help? Jacob asked quietly. He had watched Hunter try and fail a few times when attempting to start the fire room. Jacob looked around before placing his hand on the wood. Sparks of electricity crackled and instantly set the wood alight. Oh, Hunter grinned. Not realizing that would work. Thanks. He enjoyed watching him experiment. It was the only way he could truly get used to the power within. Jacob sat back and stared into the flames. He could barely believe how fast everything had changed for him, and it surprised him that he has managed to keep up. However, this was no streak of luck. Eventually, his mind would be full of too much and he'd break down. He always does. Hunter shuffled close and sat next to him. His eyes were watching Sam and William, who were talking about Alicia. It was good for them both to get things off their chests. Especially William. I'm hungry. Hunter's eyes then fell on his favorite chocolate brown ones. Of course you are. Jacob stared at him with very innocent puppy dog eyes, leaving Hunter to fall hard for his cute manipulative behavior. He quickly shook his head and stood up. Fine. He muttered and walked towards the house. Jacob was too shy to get some food himself. I'm your guardian, not your slave, he thought. I don't see the difference. He turned to see Jacob trying his hardest to keep back a smile. Hunter shook his head with clear amusement. He loved Jacob's subtle but cheeky side to his personality. Just then, Grace had walked over and sat down next to him. Hello, she beamed. Jacob flashed her a tiny smile, but he could barely bring himself to look at her. How are you doing? You've practically moved in at Hunter's. I would like you to stay home tomorrow night, please. Jacob's mood deteriorated rather fast. Okay, he mumbled. I'm sure Anthony and Margot would like some peace for a while. Jacob tried to hide a frown. What was that supposed to mean? He brushed off the insult because he knew the secret that would bring her crumbling down. Have you made up with Dad yet? He asked quietly. Why are you upset with him? Obviously, Grace didn't tell Jacob that officially named him 𝐊𝐿𝐴. However, she had no idea just how much Jacob now knew about her and about his fate as a werewolf god. It's nothing for you to worry about. She smiled. Well sorted out between us both. Can you do it quickly? He looked sad. They both looked up to Scott, who stood with a beer and talked to Anthony. They could detect his deflated interest to hold a conversation because he kept glancing at his wife. "I will, sweetie." She gently rubbed his back but made Jacob uncomfortable, so he shuffled away. He was really disappointed in her for thinking like she does. She doesn't care about anyone else's feelings but her own. "Are you struggling today?" "No, I'm fine." Jacob stood up and walked away. He really wanted to question her, and it was so hard to keep it in. She watched him climb up the side of the broken steps and to disappear into the house. Her eyes were concerned. She had no idea how much he knew about his true self, and she really hoped he didn't know much. Jacob walked past Hunter's pack, who were throwing things at each other as they waited for food. Hunter was helping his mom put things onto plates when his mate appeared behind him. They were making picnic food to eat next to the fire. A hand snaked its way around Hunter's arm and took a handful of chocolate hay. Hunter turned and grabbed his arm, but he had already shoved it into his mouth with a grin. Margot chuckled while her son shook his head. "God help me when you get used to these moving things with your mind powers. Food is already my competitor." Jacob went to take some chips, but Hunter wrapped his arms around him, trapping his hands against his body. "You can wait like everyone else," he whispered. Jacob's spine shivered when his breath brushed across his ear. He turned his head so his breath stroked his face. He was almost finished with the chocolate in his mouth as Hunter stared intensely into his eyes. "You're so cheeky." He loved that he could slowly say goodbye to shy and timid Jacob when they were around each other. This is his pure self when he's comfortable with the company. "I'm hungry." Jacob pursed his lips to avoid a smile from showing. "When are you not?" Hunter chuckled and watched his mouth. Their feelings were pumping through their bodies, especially Hunter's. "I wonder if you taste like chocolate." The blush flooded onto Jacob's cheeks, but he'd craved a kiss. Hunter leaned forwards and pressed their faces together. Their lips were connected, and it has never felt so natural and just so right like it did tonight. Jacob breathed in his scent and excited his senses. He could feel Hunter's grip around him tighten, and he has never felt so safe and so at ease with someone being so close. "You do taste like chocolate," Hunter thought. Jacob pulled back. He cowed and held back his smile. "I'm not done yet." He pushed his face back and kissed him again. Scott had entered with Anthony to help with the food, but he double-took in their direction. He has not seen his son strip back his guard like that, and it was incredibly heartwarming for him to see him finally growing in confidence. Jacob completely relaxed into him and kissed back very comfortably. Anthony and Margot smiled at each other, but he walked over and pulled their heads apart. "Aren't you both sweet?" He grinned, earning a scowl from his son. "Do you mind?" "No, you need to help." He turned them both around and gently shoved them towards the food. Everyone helped bring things out and towards the bonfire. The sun was almost gone, but the warm orange flickers from the flames created a perfect calming glow in the field. Just before everyone sat down, two outlines of people were walking across the field. Hunter, Jacob, Margot, Anthony and Flora knew exactly who it was. It didn't take long for Nathan and his wife Kayla to appear from the darkness. Jacob watched his mom instantly tense and hold her breath. She didn't expect to see her brother, who nobody knows about, at this bonfire. "Hello all." Nathan's smile seemed to widen when he saw Grace. In his eyes, it was rather entertaining that her cowardly secret was turning into harsh karma. She made him feel so worthless by rejecting him and his newly found family. Falling rapidly in love with Kayla when he was only 18 was hard for him, and he needed her support. His parents hated Kayla, so he really only had Grace to rely on. But as a sister, she let him down massively. Of course, his wife Kayla knew everything about Grace, Scott, William, and Jacob because they are family. Even though they are not allowed to see them, it doesn't mean that they should just be forgotten about. William walked over to his brother and handed him some marshmallows to roast on the fire as Nathan's eyes turned to them. He wanted so badly to get to know them. It was horrible not being a part of their lives. Hunter was very glad that Vic was here. It would take a long time to find a friendship, let alone developing a friendship that didn't exist. Margot and Anthony greeted them and introduced them to Jacob's parents. Nathan pretended like he didn't know Grace, and even she saw the shimmer of sorrow in his eyes. She brushed it off and acted like she didn't care. This is weird, Hunter thought. Your mom is pretty heartless. This was a new side to her that Jacob was seeing. He didn't think she was so cruel. He thought family meant the world to her, yet she rejected her own brother for so many years. He couldn't imagine ever doing that to William. No matter what went on in his life. She's not the person I grew up with. His voice was sad in Hunter's head. She's disappointed in me for being something I can't control. That's not right. It's not. She's your mother. She's supposed to love you unconditionally. After I meet Nathan properly, I'm going to tell her that I know everything in front of Dad and in front of William. They don't deserve to be lied to like this. It's not like Dad's secret. He was doing that so I had a chance at living a normal childhood. Mom's doing this because she's too good for the werewolf world and she's ashamed of me. Hunter watched him. He looked surprisingly stable and his emotions felt very secure and true to his words. Jacob was going to release her secret in front of those who she tried her hardest to keep it from. It's no coincidence that he heard her conversation with Nathan. A secret is not a secret if everyone knows about it.